Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yo, what up, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome.
What it do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the UpNUp podcast. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, bro.
You good?
Yeah.
It's good to see you. It's
Good
been
to
a
see you
minute.
too.
It's been a minute, right?
For sure.
I don't know, like 2 weeks?
Yeah, like a month.
About a month?
Yeah.
In podcast time, that's a month.
Yeah,
2 weeks
yeah,
is a
yeah.
month. Yeah,
For sure.
everybody knows that.
Yep.
For those of you first-time listeners, this is the UpNUp podcast. This is the podcast where we're focused on cultivating the culture. We do that by providing amazing stories of individuals, groups, movements who are out here just grinding, going after it, paving a way for themselves and others who are coming behind them. I do always want to shout out the listeners. Please, if you want to continue supporting this podcast, you can find all the episodes on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just type in the UpNUp podcast, and that's where you can find it. Am I forgetting anything? What else do you want me to do?
Like it too.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
My man.
Okay. Yeah, it's not right. It's not right if you don't force them to like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
You know.
Also, please make sure to stay tapped in with the UpNUp movement. We got a lot of great things coming ahead. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms at _TheUpNUp to stay tapped in. Man, this has been quite the week, right?
Quite the week.
Quite
for
the week,
sure.
man. Definitely want to make sure we can start the show off by paying our respects and in remembrance of one of the legends of our time, our generation, Nipsey Hussle. Want to say rest in peace.
Rest in peace, man.
Such a solidified legacy. Do you got any words or any remembrance of his legacy? Things you want to share? Well, I mean, he's done a lot. He's done a lot for everybody.
Yeah,
I feel like in this room.
I mean, I tweeted something along the lines of what I'm about to say, but he brought something out of me that I knew I had, but was kind of like hesitant to kind of like go forward and like push it out of myself.
Yeah.
But he forced it out of me, and he inspired me to do a lot of things. Up and up, everything. Give back. He changed my whole outlook on life.
Yeah.
Pretty much, so.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I was a fan of his music on top of that.
And that's the thing. It's not even about the music when you talk about him.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
the last thing I bring up, or I feel like a lot of people bring up. And yeah, from the team here and everybody in the room, we definitely want to send our prayers to the family, friends, those who he was associated with, whether it was business, music, whatever the case is, all the fans out there who are hurting. This is a time to heal, right? And I think, we have to keep each other close. We have to make sure we tell each other we love each other. And, the biggest thing I want to say is, aside from, also keeping them in their prayers or keeping them in our prayers, what's most important is we have to make sure we're not wasting the inspiration. I think a lot of times in life we have these inspiring people who come in and out of this world, and it's our duty to make use of that inspiration. And so for those listening, watching, and for those out there who will get this message, my message is, for everything he's done and left on this earth, it's important for us to channel that hustle spirit, and that's spelled Hussle, right? That hustle spirit, and put it into your planning. Keep them in your prayers, but keep them in your planning with whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you're trying to create, whatever it is you're trying to build. Put that hustle spirit into that planning, and leave that mark that Nipsey would want you to leave. And with that, I also want to leave off on some great and powerful words from the man himself. And it goes, regardless of what you're into, regardless of what you've been through, I feel like I got to tell you, you got something to contribute. Rest in peace, Nip Hussle the Great.
Rest in peace, man.
Yes. And on the note of cultivating culture, which is something he definitely inspired us to do here at the UpNUp. If you're a consistent listener, you know how it goes. We bring compelling stories up here. We bring guests up here who are living that lifestyle, who are living the UpNUp way, right? And who are cultivating culture. And I would say, today's guest, man, there's a lot of things I can say about this woman, but one thing I can definitely say is she's definitely leading the charge for all women of color by using her voice to uplift, empower, and really guide women through this maze we call life, right? I would say she's a culture cultivator herself, and everything she's doing, she's keeping it on the up and up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody who's gonna be sitting in that seat if they're not doing that, right? You know, just to give you some insight on the work she's doing, she's the creator, visionary, and host of the Balanced Black Girl podcast, available for your listening pleasure on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. Just pick up your phone, you'll find it.
And like it too.
Yeah, and make sure you like it and listen and vibe to it. You know, it's a show that actually has become one of the most thriving podcasts in this city, I would say for myself, just from watching, as well as beyond the city limits. And in her words, she's putting Black girl magic in motion, providing a dose of real-life wellness for women of all color. Right? I like that. I like that. Black girl magic. But put it in motion, you know?
Yes,
sometimes
sir.
black girl magic gets stuck. You got to put that thing in motion, right? And, you know, she's growing and glowing in this podcast space. So without further ado, it is my pleasure and our pleasure to, to announce our guest, the balanced black girl herself, Lestraundra Alfred. Can we get a round of applause? Yeah. Yeah. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming,
That's a
man.
great
Thank
intro.
you. Hey, man. You know, I'm working on it. What did I say last time? I said every great album needs a good intro. Right? So let's make a good album. I mean,
that.
yeah, usually we start the show off with a quote of the day, but I think that quote from Nipsey Hussle was you
That's
know,
the one.
it ties into everything you're doing and I think we're doing as well. And I guess I can read it off again. Regardless of what you're into, regardless of what you've been through, I feel like I got to tell you, you got something to contribute. And I feel like, you know, with everything you're doing, you know, you are contributing, right? Regardless of what you've been through, regardless of how you see the world and your perspective, you're contributing. So, but for those out there who've never heard of the Black Girl or the Balanced Black Girl podcast, we're going to get to the grind. We're going to get to behind the scenes and provide that context. But I always want to give you a chance to just tell people like what is your aim with that podcast? What are you guys trying to really accomplish there?
Yeah.
From your words.
So, Balanced Black Girl has been part of an evolution of a brand that I've been building for about 5 years now. So
Okay.
I actually spent over 4 years building a fitness blog called The Balance Berry, where I shared like workouts and recipes and kind of basic wellness content
Okay.
that I turned into like an online personal training business, and it just became this whole platform that I got really, really sick of and knew I wanted to do something different, but didn't quite know what it was. And I have had this personal interest in wellness for so long and would go to a lot of wellness events and meetups and was always the only black girl there. And I was just constantly surrounded by people that I couldn't relate to, that I felt like there wasn't a connection with. And when I finally started like listening to that, I was like, well, I know I'm not the only black girl who's interested in wellness, so why am I the only one in this room? Because those rooms weren't really created with us in mind. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll create something with us in mind to include more people in the conversation.
I feel like everybody can feel that being singled out feeling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there. I know I have. I know you have. I'm sure everybody in this room has.
sure.
I know you have. What's up, man? You just walked in. Shout out to the homie. Now, where did it start for you? Where did you grow up? Are you hometown?
Yeah, I'm local. I grew up in Skyway.
Okay. Shout out Skyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you felt that
No,
one.
I mean, yeah. You know, I'm kind of
Yeah.
close, so that's why.
Yeah.
You know,
Hell yeah.
I'm very close to Skyway.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I guess in your experience growing up in Skyway, Seattle, the greater Seattle area,
Yeah.
being as that you are providing that platform saying, hey, I want to speak to what it means to be a balanced black girl.
Yeah.
Growing up as a young woman, a young girl, what are some imbalances that you actually witnessed that showed you, hey, there's something's off here?
Yeah.
What are some things you went through growing up out here?
That's a really good question. I mean, my interest in wellness started really early because I noticed a lot of people in my family having different health problems. And on one hand, having some family members who were like not interested in wellness at all and seeing them struggle with their health for as long as I could remember. And then having my dad, who was actually always been a really big like health nut and got me really interested in that stuff from a young age, kind of seeing that contrast of what happens when you're interested in health and how you can kind of thrive and be good, and what happens when you're not, and seeing that from a very young age. And for me, I always thought that stuff like that was really normal. because I saw like my parents be interested in that stuff. I saw my dad be interested in health. I saw my mom, exercise and do things like that. So I thought stuff like that was normal. And it wasn't really until I went to college that was the first time that I truly felt like a minority.
Okay.
Where I didn't see people who looked like me doing the things that I like to do.
Yeah. And it kind of make you feel like, all right, I don't want to rock the boat
Yeah.
by being that one person either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Nah, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real. And so, wow, I feel like wellness is so broad too.
Oh yeah.
At the same time, like what was it? Like, was there a specific thing, a moment? Like, I know for some people, someone may pass away in their family from a complication or illness, and it forces them to want to lead a healthier lifestyle. Was there like a pivotal moment for you that kind of pushed you down that path?
Yeah, I would say the biggest moment for me was I was about 20. It was the summer between my junior and senior year of college, and I had an internship at Boeing. And it was my first time having to like sit still all day. It was like my first desk job. I was like sitting at this computer, bored out of my mind, and I was just like so tired. Like I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. I was like, I'm super young. Why am I so tired? And I realized, okay, well, if I exercise more and if I eat better, then I don't feel like I want to fall asleep at my desk. And making that connection between like the choices I made and physically how I felt was like a light bulb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta pay
Wow.
attention to the signs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
know when I had a desk job, I just got addicted to coffee.
Yeah.
I never drank coffee in my life like that, and I was just like, damn. So I
Yeah.
feel like that is important,
Yeah.
just thinking about how you work out, how you eat.
Yeah.
You wake up better. You don't wake up like groggy and everything like that. So
You don't have to feel like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's something I'm still kind of figuring out, but it's
It's a
it's cool.
process.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you just gotta find what works for you too.
Yeah.
Some people got their vices that works. Like, I know some people who look healthy on the outside, but they're unhealthy as hell
Oh,
inside,
yeah.
right?
Totally.
I know cats that go to the gym, and they're that guy in the gym just lifting everything, but they might be mentally unstable. You never
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you gotta just pay attention to everything, every aspect of it, because it's all interconnected at the end of the day too.
Totally.
Now I wanna get into this transitional period,
Yeah.
right? Of when you've experienced what it means to live a healthier lifestyle, push wellness
Yeah.
in all aspects. When was it for you when you were like, all right, it's time to boss up? It's time to do me. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's when you create a platform such as yours.
Yeah.
It's really about, I need to do me and I want to do it my way. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, I feel like 2018 for me, the whole year was kind of leading up to that transition. So at the very beginning of 2018, I'd gone to this wellness conference in LA, like at the very beginning of the year, and I had met a lot of other like people who I knew from like the internet space, the blogging space, and I went, and yet again, it was one of those events where there were like hundreds of people there, and there were probably like 5 women of color out of like 300 people at this
It's like
event.
a trend. I'm noticing a trend
Man.
here.
It was a trend, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I was like, for real? Like, this is so uncomfortable. And on my way flying back to Seattle, I had gotten an email from a girl who read my blog at the time who was like, hey, Les, I noticed that you were at this event. Like, I'm a woman of color. I like following you because you're one of the few women of color I see in the space. Looked like that event was pretty white. Like, thank you for being there and for representing for all of
Yeah.
us. And I was like, oh, like, I'm not the only one who notices. Other
Yeah.
people see it too. And then I was like, man, there's like a real diversity issue here. Somebody should do something about that. And then just didn't really think about it again. And then later, things kept happening where that theme kept recurring. And then I finally realized, oh, I should do something about that. Not like somebody else, but like I can do something about it.
Wow.
That's big.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people make that. Not a lot of people challenge themselves and hold themselves accountable to be that change
Yeah.
that they really want to see. We talk
Yeah.
about it. I tweet about it. People tweet about it. There's certain things I tweet about all the time that I'm probably never gonna make a move on. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just conditioned to
it's-
think like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like how you said that that girl noticed like pretty much all you guys notice it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's not
We
like
don't say it.
you guys don't say it, you know,
Yeah.
or we don't
Yeah.
say it actually. But
But you feel it.
but you feel it,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So like there's events where it's like I'll see, we'll be outnumbered, like people of color, and I'll see that one person. We just kind of look at each other,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
You nod,
but
it's
we
the
don't,
nod, yeah.
but we don't say nothing. But we kind of just know what's up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy. How, damn.
Yeah.
But so I kind of want to get into podcasting now. So
Yeah.
what steps did you take to like start your podcast? Pretty much.
Yeah. What was that
Like,
moment?
what was like the beginning like stages of it?
Yeah, so let's see. It was last fall. I just honestly got the idea for it. I was ready to end my old fitness blog. I had a bunch of personal training clients that I was training like online. And I just decided to shut it all down. Like I sent my clients an email. I was like, this month is going to be the last month of your training. I'm canceling all your payments. Like this is going away. It's like cease and desist.
Wow. Yeah.
And then
That's big.
yeah, and then I took about a month off from doing any of it, from blogging, a bunch of time off of social media. Like, I just completely took a break. I was like, I want to do something different. I don't know what that thing is yet, so I'm just going to, like, fall all the way back till I get a better idea. And one day I was literally just, like, sitting, working on the computer, and the idea for Balanced Black Girl just popped into my head, and it was like, Balanced Black Girl, it needs to be a podcast. And then I ordered a microphone and launched it like a week later.
Yeah.
And just jumped in and honestly didn't really think about it. I just did it.
So you just did it.
Just did it and just put it out there.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message.
Very powerful.
No, seriously, because a lot of people need to understand. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, we tell people all the time. Even though me and him had chemistry, before we did this podcast, we did not hundreds. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Like 50, close to 50. Close to like 50 test shows.
Yeah.
And I know this guy. I've known this guy for forever.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a matter of that. It was a matter of, let's just work through it.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. And you got to do it. You got to order that equipment. You got to
Yep.
make that purchase. You got to invest that money, right?
Don't wait for it to be perfect because you'll wait forever. Just put it out there.
Can you say that again?
Yeah.
That was powerful.
Yeah. If you're waiting to be perfect to launch something, you're going to be waiting forever. Put it out there and then make it better as you go.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
very powerful. Because
Yeah.
I am my toughest critic, and if I waited for everything to be perfect, y'all be waiting forever. You know, so
Yeah.
wow.
I'm curious also because like what we do here on our podcast, what people are normally used to seeing is me and this guy.
Yeah.
But there's so many other people involved.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's for just advice, whether it's for suggestions, whether it's for things that they don't like and don't want us to do, things like that. When you were creating the Balanced Black Girl podcast, did you have people that you were consulting with? Because it is your baby.
Yeah.
It is your idea. It came from you. Were you open to like, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you guys think? Or were you like, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care what nobody says.
Kind of a combination of both. I mean, I was going to do it and didn't care what anybody said regardless.
Yeah.
But I did bounce the idea off of a couple of people of like,
Okay.
hey, here's what I'm thinking. And everybody that I talked to was like, yes, just yes. Like, just do it. And so I was going to do it anyway, but
Yeah.
it was nice to get that validation.
And what kind of research do you have to do for that? Like did you go listen to other were you a podcast listener beforehand?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've been listening to podcasts for years. And with my old blog, I would have people say, like, oh, Les, you should start a podcast. And I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about. The Balanced Berry didn't have anything to talk about. But as soon as I knew that was the direction I wanted to go, I was like, oh, there's a lot to talk about in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what's up.
Yeah.
So I mean, we get this question all the time. I'm pretty sure you do, but a lot of people come to us like, man, how do I start a podcast? What do I
Yeah.
need? This and that.
Yeah.
And so what I want to ask you is like a ballpark estimate of how much money do you need to really start a podcast? Because people kind of look at it, see a lot of equipment, and be like, I probably need like this. So what would you say? Like, how much did you really need to like start?
Bare bones. I mean, I'm a lot scrappier than y'all. Y'all are legit, and you have a whole situation. I'm
Yeah.
very scrappy.
No, it's all good. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it could.
I'd say probably $80 to $100 to get like a microphone and a Libsyn account to
Exactly.
host it. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a laptop, you could even use your phone. You could record it on headphones of your phone. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
You know,
Yeah.
man, it's crazy. Another Nipsey quote popped in my head, but he had a line that said, "Scared money never made a purchase." And like when I hear that, I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter exactly how great of equipment or quality of something you're trying to get. It's are you willing or are you afraid to actually just make a purchase at the end of the day? That's really what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also curious because part of it is like I'm just gonna do it because I know it needs to be done.
Yeah.
But you also need to reflect as you go so that you
Absolutely.
have direction. Because I know how important it is to have that why, right? Was your why was your why like really defined when you first started, or at what point would you say, okay, this is it? I know exactly what I'm doing. Was there a moment? Did you get someone gave you some feedback or said, hey, I love this because of this? Like, what was that moment for you when it was defined?
A little bit, yeah. One of the other things I forgot to mention earlier that was a part of my big inspiration with starting Balanced Black Girl was I had gotten really burnt out of fitness, and I was like, I don't want to create fitness content anymore. I don't want to do recipes. I don't want to do workouts. But there's a lot of other amazing Black women and women of color who don't get visibility. So it was to create a platform to introduce my audience to those women. That was another big part of it.
Wow. There you go.
To like amplify those other people. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm over workouts, but this other girl still creates amazing workouts. So why don't y'all follow her and, get your life right, basically.
Wow.
And so that was a big part of the intention as well. And a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from my audience is that people really like that, but then people also still want to hear more from me, which I wasn't expecting. I thought, okay, I'll just facilitate conversations to introduce y'all to these other people. But people are like, oh, Les, we like you. Okay.
Yeah. People say that shit to us all the time. Yeah. Well, I guess because I mean, us being podcasters, it's like, when your reasoning for doing this, turning on the microphones and having these conversations is bigger than anything that's going on in the room. It's hard for you to make it about yourself, right? Like it's hard for me to sit here and be like, I want to talk my shit. Nah, I don't. I want to share some shit, right? Through a different voice. And so, what was that first guest that made you feel like, okay, this can work. This can have some impact.
I think
Not to discredit anybody that came before them either.
Because I've loved all my guests, but I think for me, one of the biggest turning points was the first time I had someone reach out and say they wanted to be on the show. And that first interview that I did where a woman's PR team reached out and said, hey, our founder just found your show. She would love to be a part of it. And I interviewed her, and it was still one of my favorite interviews that I've done to date. It's a woman named Kristen Henderson. She's a professor of public health, and she owns a website called Black and Green, which is an online marketplace that sells all of these like natural, non-toxic, like body care products that are all made by Black women artisans.
Wow.
So she only sells products that are made from these Black women who create like healthy, sustainable products.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's really dope.
And it was super cool because I learned from her. Like we just had such a great interview, but it was this surreal moment of like this amazing woman who has an amazing platform sought out my platform and wanted to come be a part. It was just the coolest experience.
It's an affirmation, you know. I love that too.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
Because you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I'm learning.
Exactly.
With social media, period. Whether you're just on social media wilding out or you're actually doing something constructive and productive, you never know who's watching it, right?
Yeah.
That's important. Now, one thing I really love about your show is the listener engagement, right? I'm a firm believer in any type of content you're putting out there, any platform that you have. It's always important to acknowledge your audience, acknowledge your listeners. Those are the people who are actually supporting you.
Yes.
And you do that in a multitude of ways. But one way is you also have your Feel Good Fridays, right? Which I listened to last Friday, or this past Friday. Where am I at right now?
You felt good?
Yeah, it did. It did make me feel good. But I guess, was that like an intentional thought? Like, I need to acknowledge my listeners, or was it just like, I see this podcast doing something and this podcast doing something, I guess I should do it? Like, what was that thought process like?
No, it was totally listener feedback. I had at the end, so I launched the podcast back in October and was coming out with an interview a week for the first like 2 months. And then at the very end of December, I just did like a 2018 recap of like, here's everything that happened with me in 2018. And it was kind of the first more personal solo episode I had done. And people just really took to it. And they were like, hey, we like the interviews, but we also like just hearing from you. I do miss getting wellness advice from you. Is that something you could do more of? So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just do 10 minutes every Friday of me just giving like a wellness tip or a piece of advice for the week. And the listeners really love it.
Yeah. No, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. And I think, man, the biggest thing, and I love the platform you have. Anytime someone wants to do something in the podcast space or wants to create something, I'm always thinking about ownership. That's like my main thing. Like, I'm always thinking about like, yo, the biggest thing is you own everything you're doing.
Yep.
You own the narratives you're putting out there. You're in control of that. And it is a responsibility too, right?
Oh yeah.
So do you feel like, man, I don't want to come off as like the all-knowing for Black girls?
Totally.
Do you ever feel like that?
I absolutely do. And that is why I try to be really careful with Balanced Black Girl. I never describe myself as a balanced black girl because I don't want balanced black girl to be any one thing, because blackness in and of itself isn't any one thing, and I think that that's a myth that needs to be dispelled. That it's a spectrum, and it can look any different variety of ways, and every which variety of way is beautiful and incredible, and the way being a balanced black girl looks to one woman can be totally different than how it looks for me, and that's great, and I want to tell all of those stories.
You just don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to take on an unnecessary responsibility. That's not it's no one's responsibility to speak for every single black person out here
at all. It's impossible.
And I think that's also somewhat of a problem for a lot of what what we look for in leaders. You know, we try to deem someone a leader because they're on a certain pedestal or they have certain influence, right? But that doesn't necessarily make them the right person. And I just love hearing about other podcasts, like the experience. I think we have our experiences. I'm sure others do as well. But what was something like you first saw in the future for this podcast? Like, is there like a greater goal, a greater thing that you want to accomplish, right? Like, do you want to do a balanced black girl conference or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things you can do with this.
Yeah.
Did you have that in mind when you first started?
There's like a couple of different things, that some of which I had hoped for and some of which I hadn't, but like now have big dreams and ideas for. It's kind of like you were saying earlier, how as soon as you start a podcast, everybody starts asking, how can I start a podcast? I definitely want to put more out there to help get more black women starting podcasts. Because I think,
please do.
I think us sharing our voices and our narratives is so important. So I'm going to be coming out with resources soon to really start helping more marginalized voices come out with their own podcasts.
Yes.
It's super simple. So I really want Balanced Black Girl to be like an all-encompassing media platform to continue to elevate more voices. And then also that in real life component, like my listeners, that's been their biggest thing. They want community. They're like, we want to meet you. We want to meet each other. We want to connect in real life.
What's that like together? When someone's like, I want to meet you? And I'm like, oh, shit. You want to meet me?
I'm like, why? But it's a compliment.
Yeah.
And so definitely more in real life components. We have the book club that was kind of the first iteration of that. And I would love to do more wellness pop-ups and meetups and more speaking, live podcasts. So those are definitely coming.
Yeah. So how did the book club come about? Pretty much.
That's dope. I tried to start a book club one time. That shit's hard.
Honestly,
I think I remember that.
It is hard. Honestly, this is gonna sound really ridiculous given like recent events in my life, but basically Becoming came out and I was like, oh, Becoming, like it's Michelle Obama. I love Michelle Obama. I'm excited for this book. I really want to read it. I wonder if other people would want to like meet up and talk about it. So like I had just gotten my copy of Becoming back in like November, and I posted a picture of me like with the book on Instagram so that my followers could see like, hey guys, I'm reading this. If you want to join me, like tag me in your pictures with you with Becoming and let's have a meetup. And thinking it was just going to be a one-time thing of like, I'm excited about this book. And so we did that back in January, and I had like a really solid group of women get together. And by the time we were leaving, they were like, Celeste, what's the next book? I was like, wow. I guess we're going to do this again.
Wow.
And so we've been picking a book every other month. And
does that group grow? Like, is it like kind of, if you weren't there from the jump, then you can't jump in?
Anyone can jump in. Anyone
cool.
can jump in, yeah. And then we have a lot of people participating virtually. So I have like a little segment of my like newsletter list that is devoted to like book club updates. So people who just want to read what we're reading and connect about it in my Facebook group.
All right. So now this is what I want you to discuss as well, because you do a lot. Like just you and yourself, right? Having all these things that you're running aside from the podcast. Can you give some like real authentic insight into the type of work that has to be done behind the scenes? Because a lot of people only see what they see on the surface and think it's like cookie cutter and it's, instant overnight. Press a button. Here we go. Let's do it. Can you talk a little bit or speak to kind of like what that entails, what type of sacrifices you have to make to run this platform?
Totally. I mean, it's a 24/7 thing. It's in all night, all weekend, every night, every weekend. I have to make a lot of tough decisions about what I do and what I don't do. I let people down a lot. I disappoint people a lot when I can't do things or when I'm not available to things, because I've dedicated myself and put a lot of kind of pressure on myself to produce a lot, and that is definitely a high priority. And so it's a constant juggle between making things happen every day to really work towards that greater goal, but also still trying to have a little bit of. It's funny that I keep naming all these things after balance, because I'm not balanced at all.
Well, that is the goal, right? We're heading towards balance, right?
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah. So it's a constant, but there's work and there's production in everything. I mean, you guys know that.
Yeah, no, and I definitely applaud you for handling that, because there's a lot of people who, I think what this show aims to provide is context, pretty much, right? We want to talk about people's wins, but we also want to talk about some of the L's. We want to talk about, some of the practices, right? I'm using sports references. I don't know. Sports references are the easiest references to use, first of all. I don't care. Nobody says. Now, you mentioned the book club, and you mentioned becoming, and I know from seeing, I'll be on Instagram, I'll be on the gram. I don't know, these guys are laughing. Maybe distract me sometimes, I don't know. But from seeing on Instagram, you had the honor of actually being a part of what looked like a closed, really exclusive session for Becoming with Michelle Obama herself, right?
Yes.
So how the hell did you get that close to the First Lady? That's my question.
So, oh my goodness, just being really blessed and favored, I'll put it that way. So basically, one of my coworkers, because I do have a full-time job, one of my coworkers used to work for President Obama's re-election campaign back in 2012, and she was on the team supporting the Tacoma Dome tour stop that Michelle had done. And so she knew that I did a book club, or that I had a book club getting together for Becoming. And so she was like, hey, one of my coworkers had a book club for Becoming. Can we save her a ticket to go to the Tacoma Dome so that I could go see the tour show for free? So she shared that with the team that was putting together the show, and they were like, oh, well, Mrs. Obama really likes meeting with book clubs before the show stops. And so they reached out to me, and it was literally through an email in the contact form of my website. And was like, hi, I'm Michelle Obama's publishing agent. Would your book club be interested in meeting again with her? And I'm like...
You're like, spam. This is spam.
Yeah. I was like, what? And then, so I read the email, and then 5 minutes later, I get a phone call of the woman calling me, basically we need to get moving on this if you're interested. And I was like, let's... Tell me when to be there.
Was it a confident let's do this, or was it okay?
It was shock and disbelief.
Yeah.
So that's how that came to be. So that same group that met in January for that first Becoming meeting is who I brought to come to the group.
That's big.
That is.
It was crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, in the best way. It was the best day.
So, well, shit. I've never met anybody who actually met the Obamas, so this is dope. I guess within that session that you had with her, I'm sure she dropped a lot of gems.
Oh, so many.
But I guess what are some things, or what are some of the best advice she gave to you or to the group as a whole that stuck with you?
Yeah. A lot that I think will resonate with this conversation for sure. We were asking her just a lot of questions around her story, maybe things that she left out of the book, and what made her want to share in the first place. And something she said that really stuck with me was that when people don't know your story, they'll basically fill in gaps for you, and they're usually wrong. So when you share your story, you control your narrative, and you control what people know about you, because you're not leaving anything up for the imagination for people to fill in with whatever they want, and you can own your story. And the last thing she said to me before we left was she gave me a really big hug after I told her about the podcast, and she said, thank you for using your voice. And then I just immediately started crying. But
I'm about to cry.
Right?
No. Tissue, bro. Somebody give me tissue. Nah, man, that's big.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think that you were like, all right, let me buy this microphone and see if this shit's gonna work. And then it just turns into something greater, it turns into this. And I feel like you hit a certain point where you don't get surprised when things happen as well, right? Like when you've put enough work in and you've seen things be delivered consistently, obviously it's shocking. But you're like, man, you know what? I put in a lot of work. And I don't think this is a coincidence. I think maybe I should be in this moment. Did you feel that? Or no? So, I mean, it's Michelle Obama. So I
Ooh,
don't know.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I felt.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe if I meet her again, maybe Oprah next, then I'll be like, okay.
Okay.
But,
Whoa.
Okay.
Speak that shit. Oprah, are you listening?
trying to make it real.
Oprah.
What's up, Oprah? Holla at me.
I honestly, in that moment, it just didn't really feel real. Like it just felt very surreal,
Yeah.
but very. I don't know. She's also like super personable and really friendly, so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was like a
Yeah.
very easy conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's dope though, man. I think you do have to control your story,
Yes.
right? Like especially nowadays, man. Social media,
Yeah.
fake news, whatever you want to call it, man. People are out here just trying to twist narratives left and right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you were able to share that. And one thing I do love about the way you portray the platform and as well as carry yourself is you're very transparent, right? And we were talking about that the other day. It's like, where's that line of transparency though, where you're like, am I just rubbing it in their faces, or am I just being honest with my process because they need to know this is what it is?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, or do you deal with that at all?
I do. That's something that I think a lot about. And my approach to it, and I don't know if this is like the right or wrong, I'm not saying this is like the way to go, but this is just what has worked for me, is I have certain areas that I'm willing to be very open and transparent about, and certain areas that are just kind of off limits and you'll never really hear me talk about publicly. So for those things that I deem like, yes, this is a yes area of like my personal wellness journey or my business and how I'm building my business and how I use my platform and the people I serve. Like, I will go all in. I will be wide open. I will talk about anything and everything. And then other parts of my life that I don't really share publicly, you just won't hear me talk about because I just don't even put that on the table.
Yeah.
That's right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. So, well, Nipsey read a lot of books. I'm just say that. But what are some of the books that you probably recommended the most to people, or you like some of the books you guys read or anything like that? Because I know there's people that want to read books and they just don't know what to read. You know. So.
Yeah. So now that Balanced Black Girl is an actual book club, which was not my intention at the beginning. We've been focusing on Black woman authors. So Becoming was our very first book. Our second book was Well Read Black Girl, which was amazing. So it was an anthology collection of essays by different Black women writers. And then right now we're reading a book called Eloquent Rage by a woman named Brittany Cooper, who's a sociology professor, and it's all about Black feminism. But I think in terms of finding good reads, I mean, for me, it's been all about recommendations from people I trust.
Okay.
Who are people who are like really talking about things that I want to know about, or who are knowledgeable about things that I want to know about, and asking them for recommendations. I kind of, to that same point we were just talking about in terms of like owning our narratives and owning our stories, I've really been wanting to seek out more Black authors so that I could really like dive into that. But a lot of it has just been like community, asking people what to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'm gathering here is you acknowledge those who are acknowledging you, right? I think that's important. I've seen a lot of like really successful entrepreneurs. I be going down the YouTube rabbit hole sometimes, and I just be
It's easy to do.
Yeah, I be watching random videos. But Gary V, if you guys know who Gary V is, he talked about that. He talked about how important it is to acknowledge those people who are engaging with your content, even if it's not a lot of people. You still got to make them known, or make them feel like they're known, make them feel like they're being seen and heard. And I think you do a really good job of that. I'm definitely taking notes right now as we're having this conversation, because we try our hand at that. And we're trying to get better at it. We do our listener appreciation week every 10 episodes, and so if you're listening, hit us up. Episode 40, pull up. But yeah, I think you definitely are kind of building some sort of blueprint that you can say, hey, this is for young women of color to use, man, because I can't tell you how many girls walk up to me talking about they want to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can tell you how to do it, but the fact that you are actually a woman who's doing it, I think you really would be the best voice for them.
Yeah. Well, and it's like when people ask questions about how do I start a podcast, it's not, people will ask questions about the tech of like, what microphone do I need? What do I do? That's not what people are struggling with. People are struggling with feeling comfortable with their voice, with feeling comfortable with their message, and feeling like they have a right to put that out there. Like, you can Google what microphone to get. You can Google how to start a podcast.
Yeah.
People ask that, but that's not why they're asking. They're asking for advice to, like, how do I feel comfortable putting my voice out there?
Yeah.
And that's the advice people need. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, I think especially women, because in a lot of ways we can be trained to be seen and not heard, that feeling comfortable putting your voice out there can be really, really scary.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. That's definitely a good point. I mean, it's a very male-dominant society we live in, so males feel like they can just say whatever the hell they want. It is. It's the truth. Right? You know what I'm saying? It is. It's the truth. But, yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, though. It is your why. I think it just goes back to your why. Like, this podcast, what we're doing with Up and Up would not exist if we didn't know why we were doing it. And that's aside from any equipment or anything that's going on in this room. It's about why we're sitting here having this conversation. And I'm sure the same goes for you. So for anybody listening and watching out there, you know, find your why. You know, find your why. Figure out what it is you really want to, you know, essentially die for, you know, and you want to live and stand by, pretty much, right?
And who you want to hear it. Who needs to receive that message and be really clear.
Yeah, that's big too. Yeah. Man, we just built a podcast on this podcast. Someone's listening. Anybody listening, you got yourself something. You know. Now, I do also want to make sure we give you a chance to talk about things that are coming up on the horizon. You know, I know you working. I know you got things planned in the pipeline. So, for those listening, watching, how can they get in touch with things that you got coming down the line? First, let's tell them what you got coming, then we can tell them how to get in touch.
Yeah, so definitely more events. So we're going to have our next book club meeting in May. I'm sorry Michelle is not going to be there, but I would still love all y'all to come.
Barack's going to be there. Okay, cool.
Exactly. It's funny. After that happened, so many people are like, how can I join the book club? I'm like, here's how you can sign up. I'd love to have you. Michelle ain't coming back, but like,
disclaimer, parentheses,
just so you
asterisks.
know.
Michelle
so
ain't gonna
we're
be there.
Clear. She's not coming back, but I would still love to have you. So our Eloquent Rage meetup is going to be in May. And then after that, for the summer, planning a couple of workout pop-ups and live podcasts. More info coming soon. So if you want information on that, you can follow me on Instagram at BalanceLess and at Balance Black Girl Podcast. And that's usually where I announce everything coming up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
No, I was gonna ask. I was gonna say the social media handles everything, but you know, she held it down.
Jumped in.
I was like, "Where's he about to say?" I was like, "He came in passionate on that one."
You know the live shows too. I was like, "Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. I'll definitely be at a live show." Yeah.
I'm excited to do. Have you guys done a
We
live
have not done,
live
but
show?
we talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
That's
we were actually supposed to do one, and then some things fell through. But nah. Yeah, but I think live shows are definitely dope. I see a lot of other podcasts do it.
Yeah.
I think the space you're in, I think the space we're in, it makes sense to do them too, because you know, I know if we do one, we're definitely gonna try to have a guest there and interview the same way we would do here.
Yep.
Whereas some podcasts where it's just about the host and they're, you know, just talking their shit, that can be kind of hard. I don't know. I feel like you have to really build a strong listenership to do that. Like Joe Budden's podcast, they tour, and it's just them talking about what the hell we see on Twitter and shit all day. But you know, they have an audience, so who wants to come see it? So we'll be learning from you. We'll be watching. Lead the way.
We'll see what happens.
Nah, definitely. Now, do you got anything else? I know you no.
Nah,
no?
I'm cool.
You sure?
Yeah.
You don't want to interrupt again?
Nah, bro.
So with that being said, you know, I always ask this question to end off our shows with all our guests. It's something to kind of, you know, sum up what we talked about as well as cast what's ahead. So if you can, what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up?
One word. That's hard.
And you can explain it if you'd like.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have to say, and it's going to sound cheesy, but I would have to say community. Because so much of what inspired me to start my platform was feeling really isolated, moments of isolation and feeling like I didn't fit and wanting like-minded people around me, wanting that sense of community. So creating that for myself and others, I think, is what definitely motivates me.
Important.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nah, community, man.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Seriously. Wow.
Bro.
That was good. We've got community before, right? I swear we got to just write them down now.
Yeah.
No, but that
board or something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that was great, and I do agree with that though. I think everything we're doing here is going towards a community, whether it's a niche community or whether it's the greater community. All the work is relative. Yeah. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I definitely want to thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for
first
having
and foremost.
Me. Thank you.
And you know you got support here from, you know, whatever it is you got coming down the line. just let us know. And yeah, man, you know, this was a powerful episode for sure. I think a lot of people can learn from this, and you know, definitely want to again, you know, send our condolences to Nipsey Hussle's family and friends and everybody involved with him in his life. Man, I'm excited for what's to come, man. I'm pumped right now. I don't know why. I'm just like I'm in the mode. You guys want to give shout outs or something? I don't know.
Go ahead, bro.
You good?
Got it. You got it.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think it's safe to say Lestraundra Alfred is officially a member of the Up and Up. Thank you for coming.